G'day, I'm Paul. Tesla has just revealed the new Model Y. It is codenamed the Juniper. I'm going to show you all the pictures. I'm going to run you through everything we know so far and what it means for Australia as well, and the big price hike that is coming for it too. Let's kick off with the exterior design and just give you a bit of background on me. I've owned Teslas now for 5 years, had a Model 3 Performance and then a Model Y base rear-wheel drive. Styling is entirely subjective, so what I think looks great, you may think looks terrible, so you can take my opinions on styling with a grain of salt, but look, this is the exterior view of the new Model Y, and to me it actually doesn't look too bad. They've introduced some new colours, for the Australian market at least. Black is being replaced with glacier blue, which I quite like the look of, and you can see here if I grab my pen out, some of the design changes that are sort of immediately obvious. Split headlight design, so you've got an LED running light up the top there that could double as an indicator, and then a headlight down here, and then an LED bar that runs along the front there too. This is kind of a common theme now amongst manufacturers. They're splitting up headlights to help with things like aero. You can basically not have a surface there that has to have a perspex panel or something clear for light to shine through, so you can split those up. You can also see a fairly decent aero element off to the side there as well to help with reducing the amount of drag that the car has as it cuts through air. What you can notice here from the front as well is that this isn't simply a Model 3 Highland in an SUV shape, which is what we thought they were going to do. This is quite a comprehensive styling change to what Tesla did with the Model 3, and they kind of had a free kick with the Model 3 Highland because they could sit down, take a lot of feedback in and not make the same mistakes on things that people perhaps didn't like on the Model Y update. And I'll run you through one of those big ones on the interior in just a second. So that's the front. I'll show you the rear. Again, I quite like the rear simply because they've gone with just a different design that doesn't make this look as frumpy. And things like this boot lip, you can see there, it's got quite a sort of strong spoiler attached to the back of it. Again, this helps with drag and aerodynamics. And then you've got this LED frosted light bar that runs along the back there with Tesla lettering within it. And then a plastic diffuser down the bottom here, which is kind of similar to what they already did, but it seems to be a bit more aggressive around those leading edges as well. Charge port appears to be in the same location, so nothing really changes there. But the interesting thing as well, for the Australian market at least, you can see if you sort of zoom in here, that's a dual motor badge down the bottom there. But for the Australian market, they're actually launching with what they're calling the Launch Series. And the Launch Series is more expensive. It's like 15 or 20% more expensive than the current base Model Y, but it does come with some extra features, and I think that's how they've justified part of that price increase. Launch Series cars will have this badge on the back of them, so this is something that they're adding to these vehicles to signify that it is part of the Launch Series. And then inside the cabin as well, you've got stuff like vegan suede for the black interior. They're very important. And then other stuff as well that it comes with. I'm just having a look at my phone here. You've got puddle lights in the same configuration as the badge on the rear. You've got a door seal plate word mark with Launch Series on it, and then Launch Series written on the interior charger there as well. Also comes standard with 20-inch alloy wheels for the entry level as well. So I think that's a sort of handy feature to have. Now, the other thing you'll notice as well, if I open this one up, this is what it looks like in glacier blue. But you will notice down there a camera fitted to the front. So finally it will have proper 360 camera coverage. Now, you always did have a camera up the top there as well, but having it down low is actually going to help with parking and maneuvering the vehicle in those spaces where that top camera simply can't see what is down the front of the vehicle here. Tesla controversially moved to removing ultrasonic parking sensors, which I'm absolutely not a fan of because it does not work in the Model 3 when they use camera-based detection. It is a really poorly tuned system. So hopefully this will make it a little more accurate, but we found it to be very inaccurate when you relied on cameras alone. It is disappointing they removed proven technology like parking sensors, and they're so cheap. I mean, I don't know if it's a cost-cutting thing or they want to flex with their technology, but parking sensors have worked forever and there was no need to get rid of them. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, but let's see how this performs for that extra camera coverage at the front there. Let's jump inside the cabin. This is probably the bit I was most excited about because they haven't done what they did with the Model 3. So I'll highlight just some of the things that have stood out to us. So you've got, a bit hard to see here, but perforations there on the seats. Comes with cooled seats now, which is fantastic. It's probably one of the things I didn't really like about our Model Y is during summer when it got really hot inside the cabin, you would just stick to the seats. They just didn't have good ventilation. Whereas the Model 3 Highland that we drove not too long ago when it was hot, you had the cooling that pumped through the seats there, which is great. So over here you can see the indicator stalk. That has made a return. That's probably the thing I'm most pleased about with this interior, because again, having driven the Model 3 Highland, maybe you get used to it after you've owned it for a while, but it is such a poor setup there for indicators. What they would do with the Model 3 was they put indicators here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. And what it meant was that both of your indicators were in the same position. If you look at some of the high-end supercars like Ferraris have indicators on the steering wheel, they typically have a left and a right, and then you can activate those as you're driving. You know exactly where they are because your hands don't move around too much. Whereas with this vehicle, if you were going through a roundabout and you turned the wheel, you didn't know which indicator was which because they were upside down. So it was really hard to gauge what you were actually doing. And I think it was a bit of a safety issue as well, really just not very well thought out. Makes more sense in the Cybertruck where they've done the same thing, because the Cybertruck is steer-by-wire, which means small input of the steering. You're still going to know exactly which indicator's which next to your thumb. Whereas on the Model 3, it is much harder to actually discriminate between those. So a really positive change here to the interior. They've retained stuff like the storage, that's probably the thing that was most pleasant with our Model Y, just the amount of storage that you have, and you just do not find this on modern electric cars. So down here you had stacks of storage, in the center console you had stacks of storage, and importantly it was storage that you couldn't see from outside the vehicle. So it meant that when you got inside, or when someone was standing outside the vehicle, you couldn't see all your high-end belongings that you were storing inside the car. So that is definitely a welcome change. Again, similar to Model 3, we've got LED lighting that goes around the entire cabin there. You've got different surfaces behind the screen there as well. What else looks different in here? The seat design as well, by virtue of the perforations that you have in there. That is, again, a welcome change. One of the other things I noticed as well, if you have a look at this picture here, it's a bit grainy. They don't have any clear images of what the steering wheel looks like. They've actually redesigned the functions on the steering wheel too. So you've got voice recognition down the bottom here. This appears to be the button for the camera. And then you've got a blank down here, which again, like the previous generation of this vehicle, you could assign to anything, and Tesla could change what that actually did, depending on what you did with this central wheel. But on the left-hand side, where you would have the indicators normally on the Model 3 Highland, you've got high beam, and you've also got your windscreen wipers and washers located there with, again, a customizable function in the center. So I just think it's a much better layout there on the steering. Steering wheel design is also different now as well. So you've got that, I don't know what you would call that shape, but it's sort of like a, what is that shape, Eagle? I don't know. Upside down triangle. It's not that because it's got 4 corners, but anyway, that thing. You get that shape of thing. A slight rounding off at the bottom there as well. So it's not quite a perfectly circular wheel. It's just sort of, again, a trendy thing in automotive these days to have that. Now, the interesting thing as well, a lot of people speculated that this might be a steer-by-wire system. I don't think it is. If you sort of look deeply at how manufacturing works on these vehicles, unless you do a major platform change, this is probably just going to be an EPAS system with a rack, so similar to what the current vehicle has. Gives you the customizability of being able to speed it up, slow it down, vary how quickly it moves at speed. But I don't think it is a steer-by-wire system similar to the Cybertruck and the Lexus RZ electric car as well. That would be too big of a change for the platform. I could be wrong, you never know, but we'll see what comes of that. Now, the second row, this is probably something that I still just find very confusing, and that is in the second row, you've got this screen down the bottom there for playing games and stuff. When I tested this in the Model 3 Highland, I found it to be such a useless feature because if you're a kid, you've got to lean all the way forward to even access that screen. Imagine playing a game while you're hunched over trying to use the screen. It just seems like a completely redundant feature, and I just don't understand the logic in it. I would have much preferred to have that screen on the seat backs where your kids can actually get value out of it instead of just lumping it down the bottom there. It's going to use electricity and just something else to break down the future. There is this video that they published as well that kind of gives you a quick run through of what the interior looks like. So I'll quickly zip through this. You can see the seats recline and come back up using a button. So basically previously they would drop with a button, whereas now they will go down and up. So they are fully motorized. You can see that new textured material along the dashboard there, the LED lighting, the screen in the back, and then moving to the screen in the front. So yeah, it's not a bad not a bad setup there. Now let's talk about the way that it drives and batteries and that sort of stuff. So Tesla is boasting here that it's even quieter now. So an updated wheel and tire package offers a smoother driving experience with improved grip, redesigned body casting, reduce parts from 70 to 1 for fewer gaps, all to create a whisper quiet ride. So I think, again, unlike other car companies, I think Tesla, instead of overhauling a platform, they will significantly update a lot of this stuff so that on the outside it looks the same, but on the inside it's probably very different. And I think that is a great example of that in terms of the casting process. They're saying it's now more efficient as well. So I think that will also come down to aero changes. Let's have a look at what else they've said here. I do love that if you scroll down here, they've talked about anti-gravity, so the seats that support you nicely. I've always loved seats in Teslas, and the Model 3 Highland really took it up another notch with a very comfortable seat. It also introduced acoustic glass, which it looks like they're now putting into Model Y as well, again to help with the sound inside the cabin. Now if we jump down to here, this looks at some of the infotainment features. This is a cool feature. My dad owns a Model 3, so does my brother, and I've seen this rolled out, and it's great. You've got basically an overlay for the weather that's coming, and I think this is a great feature that they've added to it. And since getting rid of our Tesla and now driving a Ford Mustang Mach-E, one of the things that I miss the most is the technology. The tech in Teslas is so good. The app, I mean, the infotainment, just everything about it is significantly better than every other manufacturer on the market. So for that alone, it is definitely worthwhile. Now on the ride, Tesla claims to have updated the suspension package, and it will probably get the frequency selective damping setup that the Model 3 has, which has significantly improved the ride. So hopefully that transitions into the Model Y, because that was one of the things that I really disliked about our car. The ride was so firm, unbelievably firm, and that was on 19s. You know, let alone if you went to like the 21s. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that performs once we have a drive of that too. Okay, so let's jump into what this means for Australia. So pricing, big jump up in pricing. So basically we're now talking about an increase from $55,900 to $63,400 for the base. That does come with the added features of the launch series, which is what they're basically launching with. It'll arrive in Australia from May, unless there are delays there. So it comes standard with 20-inch alloy wheels, the Helix shape there, Helix 2.0. Doesn't come with the 19s that come standard currently on the entry level. That's that glacier blue color that replaces black that I mentioned earlier. Stealth gray, quicksilver, ultra red and white. All of these colors are free of charge as part of the launch series as well. The only sort of decision you need to make is whether you go black or white with the interior, and that comes with a $1,500 cost. And then all the autopilot stuff, which I think is just a waste of money at the moment. Now, in terms of the rest of the pricing and changes on range, so driving range has increased by 11 kilometers for the rear wheel drive and 18 for the long range all-wheel drive. Acceleration has also increased, and that is kind of carryover from the Chinese market. So it used to be 6.9, 0 to 100 for the base model. Then China got an update and it became faster, but we never got that update. They reserved that for this new version of the Model Y. So this is pretty much what China has had for a little while. Top speed of 201 kilometers an hour. The long range all-wheel drive actually comes standard with the acceleration boost package. So that means 0 to 100 in 4.3, which is pretty bloody fast, and it means you don't really need to shell out for a performance if you don't need all of the extra features there. You're getting effectively pretty face-numbing acceleration here without having to spend an arm and a leg. But talking about 63,400 for the base and then 73,400 for the long range all-wheel drive. And long range all-wheel drive will now do 551 Ks on the WLTP cycle compared to 533 previously. And in terms of the price differences, we're talking about a price hike of $7,500 for the base and $3,500 for the long range. So fair bit of a price hike, and it's a bit of a confusing one if you ask me, because you have so many Chinese brands coming to Australia now. Tesla manufactures these vehicles in China, and you're going to be competing with brands that have a lot more cost to cut out than you do. And I don't know whether Tesla's, just banking on their reputation to be able to sell cars at a higher cost. But if this follows form with what happened previously, which is literally what happened to me, you pay $70,000+ for the car, and then it's worth $55,900 brand new, not 2 years later. I think that is a pretty shitty thing to be doing to customers, and I'd just be watching this closely. If you're not desperate to go out and get one, maybe just wait a little bit until they figure out what demand is for the first batch of cars, and then see how that performs before you sort of rush out to spend your money on it, because it will likely drop in price and you'll just be chasing depreciation. So that is your first look here at the new Tesla Model Y. I'm just checking that there's nothing else here worth talking about. Oh, battery packs. They appear to remain unchanged at 60 kilowatt hour LFP for the rear wheel drive, and then around a 79 kilowatt hour nickel manganese cobalt NMC battery for the long range. So that doesn't appear to be any different. It's just all of the external stuff that is changing. So there you go. That has been your first look at the new Tesla Model Y. What do you reckon? Do you like it like I do? What do you reckon about the design? Let me know in the comments section below. I know it's probably going to be a little bit controversial. Are you going to order one? Have you ordered one? The order books are now open. Let me know what you reckon. But until next time, take it easy.